Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Nikki. I'm a homeschool mom to an only child going into 4th grade. We are wrapping up our homeschool year, and I am going to be showing a ton of reviews on the curriculum that we have finished for our 3rd grade year. So if you're new here, please subscribe down below, hit the notification bell. That will notify you of all future videos of mine. Today I'm going to be talking about moving beyond the page. We have wrapped up Iggie's house from Moving Beyond the Page. So if that is something that interests you to hear all about this, then keep watching. All right, so I'm going to be showing a mini flip through at the end of this video. So stick around for the flip through, but for right now, I'm going to tell you my thoughts. So Iggie's house is with this book by Judy Blume. If you've not read it, I highly recommend it. I think it's a great book that has a lot of good, rich content in it that is going to give your child a lot of conversational points to have with you as a parent. So if you have not heard of Iggie's house is, I'm going to read you the back of the book. Iggie is gone. She's moved to Tokyo, and now Winnie, her best friend, is alone on Grove Street, cracking her gum and wondering how she's going to make it through the rest of summer. Then the Garbers move into Iggie's house, and Winnie is thrilled. They have 3 kids, but the Garbers are black, and Grove Street is white and always has been. Winnie, a welcoming committee of 1, sets out to make a good impression, showing the Garbers what a good neighbor she is. That's how the trouble starts. The Garbers don't want a good neighbor, they want a friend. So, I mean, this book can be a little uncomfortable because we are set back in time. We are, like, I believe this book is for ages 8 to 12, but it is set back in, like, I forget what it said, the 70s, 60s. No, it's got to be earlier than that. I've done reviews on Moving Beyond the Page before, and I haven't always been that positive about them. And because of that, I hesitated coming on here to tell you this, but I'm giving you a positive review today. This changed a lot of my viewpoints on Moving Beyond the Page because of how I think I've just gotten more comfortable on the curriculum, and I am not afraid to plan anymore because I use Homeschool Planet as my digital planner. And so life has just become so much easier to plan, and it really just took that stress away that I'm honestly not afraid to plan. And this is definitely not, I mean, it's kind of open go, but you kind of really do need to prep some things and look ahead to make sure that you're getting all the activities that you want to do, whether you're going to print it out, whether you're going to use it in the actual physical book. You're going to want to poke through this beforehand. And if you are nervous about the book, then I recommend reading it before you start it so that you have an idea before you dig into this book with your children. So this is Concept 4, Unit 3, ages 7 to 9. Moving Beyond the Page is taught by concepts. So I have talked about this in my previous videos that I have reviewed, as this is the part that I don't like. They do say you could do it as individual units, but here's the thing. If they're talking about a topic in the book for language arts and your child has not learned the topic, it might not be re-taught to you. So it could be talking about paragraphs and your child may not have learned paragraphs yet. So even though you can work around that, you can pull your own resources, you can figure out how to teach your child, it's not necessarily going to be in that single book that you are using at the time. So if you take this Concept 4, okay, and we are in, Iggie's house is literally the last on the list of the concept. So it also goes hand in hand with the science and social studies unit. So for Unit 3, Concept 4, Iggie's house would be paired with connected culture. And that's in the relationships category because this book is definitely about relationships. But it's just something that you have to be mindful of, that this is not necessarily something that's going to be taught in this specific book. It could be a previous concept that was taught in another unit from them. So just be mindful of that, and that's why I'm saying it's open and go to an extent, but you might have to skip some things if you are using it as open and go, that you might not have things on hand to be able to teach the concept for. I do think that this book overall, we didn't really come across things that she didn't already know. So this isn't like I bought and we've been using the whole like age level curriculum. Like, this is a standalone unit for us that we did because we stopped The Good and the Beautiful, and I wanted to have something that was only going to be like a few weeks, you know, because we're at the end of our year. And so that's why I got 2 units that I picked out that we are continuing for the rest of the year. So Iggie's house, I mean, everything from moving down the page is in black and white, but how it is laid out is really, I actually like it now, because now that I understand what the heck I'm doing, go figure, it's laid out fairly simple. So at the very beginning of the book, they have all the vocabulary for the book. They have all the materials. They have everything that you're going to need per lesson. So if you would just even go in there, pull the materials out, put it on your calendar, tap it in somewhere so that you have it on hand and you know ahead of time that, hey, I'm on lesson 2. I'm going to need this for this lesson. Do it. It will be life-saving for you. So it talks about like these big ideas, getting started, what types of relationships exist among people. It talks about facts and definition, racial relationships, because this book is all about racial relationships. Be prepared for these conversations because they're going to happen. And they use words in there that not necessarily are common words these days. There's a fact, there's opinion, and knowing the difference between fact and opinion. It's talking about the skills. We're going to recall main ideas, facts, details from a text. We're going to analyze characters, their traits, relationships, actions, and changes. And then it has your materials again. And again, these are all like optional because you can choose the activities that you're going to do per lesson. So you're going to have the introduction, what you're going to tell your child about introducing them to this lesson. And then you're going to have, okay, tell your child, or today your child's going to read chapter 2. So she's going to go ahead and read that chapter out loud. You can read it with her. She can read it independently. It's totally up to you. She is very much a reading hog, so she doesn't really let me read anymore. So it's all on her to like read that, like all on herself, but she reads it out loud. And then there are comprehension questions. So you can either read the comprehension questions out loud, or you can print them out or you can have them completed in the book. So I'm printing everything so that there's no markings in the page. So I just go ahead and print a copy of this, and this is, the discussion questions about the chapter. And I do find the discussion questions being like thorough and very thought out and thought-provoking. So that's good. Then after you do the discussion questions, which I highly recommend if you're doing this program, do the discussion questions, whether you write them down or do them verbally, because that is kind of the point of reading a book and having conversations and talking about it and language arts and all of that. It's all in here. So then there's an activity. So for this entire book, we had something called this reactions chart. And the reactions chart was basically like reacting to certain scenarios in the book and having your child think of a reaction they would have in this scenario. Fun to see her and how she would react in some of these situations that, she may not have been in yet or not have been exposed to. So that's almost in every single lesson, but it's definitely optional. You don't have to do this, and you don't have to do everything on one day. I chose to do one lesson per day because that's just how we have it in our homeschool. So we wrap up, because there's about 12 lessons-ish to each unit study. So we wrap this up in about 2 to 3 weeks, depending on how long or how many days it is recommended for some of the activities. So, and if I think that it's too complex or it's not a concept that she learns, we end up skipping the activity. Or if I know I have something on hand, then I'm able to grab it and teach it to her. So like the next activity is racial relationships. It wants you to discuss what it means to stereotype. So it's going to have a worksheet in here for the, and sometimes it may have different options, which I'm going to show you in a second. So like this is the activity 2. You can choose to do it. You can choose to skip it. This is your homeschool. You can do whatever you want. So it's going to have scenario 1. Read the scenario, decide how you would respond to it, or make up your own scenario as number 4. So then that's activity 2. Then if you wanted to do activity 3, we're talking about fact or opinion. Have option 1. Give your child this page if you want them to write just fact, F for fact, and O for opinion. And the next one is like an advanced option. So if you have something that's a little bit more challenging, maybe you have an older child who's joining you on this, it has a advanced option, not for every single lesson, but for a lot of them, I do see that they have a good amount of selection to choose from. So that is all in one. So this was option 1. This is option 2. And then we're on to lesson 3. So this, I mean, this book is great. I'm just going to go over. So there is a final project at the very end. Once you complete all the lessons, the last final project, I believe it's like a 2-day, or it'll tell you, it'll tell you 2 days at the top up here on what they recommend to take the time to do the final project. And we had a lot of fun. I did a review on Poppy, and we had a really good time reviewing Poppy, not reviewing Poppy, doing the final project on Poppy, because we made like a shoebox, what do you call those? Like those shoebox creation things where you put all the pieces in there and glue it in. It's like the shoebox where it's like, you know, it shows you a story or whatnot. So this one wasn't as elaborate of a project, but it had like interview questions. We actually did not do this.
I was hearing it, and I remember I did the craft, and there was like, we had a platform and we put grass around it, and when the owl died and stuff, I just remember doing a craft for that, just so the viewers know, and smash that like, because you weren't, because you were confused, so I was just helping you out. Love you.
So yeah, she did like a crafty type project for Poppy. But we didn't do the interview that it wanted you to do, like a character interview as the final project for Iggie's house. And we just ran out of time. Like I said, I've been sick, and like it just kind of smashed together, and it wasn't something that I was, very interested in doing. So I really liked this one too. Like we planned a letter, and so it was kind of walking you through how you would write a letter to someone. We've done that many times, but this really had like the topic sentence, the main idea, the supporting stuff, like how you would write a paragraph. And so because we were working on paragraphs in another part of our curriculum, I had her do this. And then I had her type it up, the final one, and that was really good for her. And I think that was a good thing. So overall, I really like this. There is 10 lessons with 11 being 11 lessons with the end being the final project, which is over 2 days. So this took us about 2.5 weeks, I want to say. And it has so many like ways. You could pull spelling. It has like a typical day laid out for you. It has like the lesson structure and stuff like that. So I'm going to give you like a really quick mini flip through, but I really enjoyed Iggie's house, and I know she really enjoyed Iggie's house. At times it was a little tough because the concepts are kind of tough in this book, and the conversations are a little tough to be had and not necessarily always understanding, because it's kind of hard when you didn't live back then to really envision and picture how life was and between the blacks and the whites. But it was really eye-opening for her because, you know, she does have friends of color. And so it was interesting to see her like interpretation of like the scenarios. And like I'd ask her like, hey, if this happened, like what would you do? And she had really, really good insightful answers, and just like a lot of empathy towards the situations, and a lot of good conversation came from this book. So I highly recommend Iggie's House from Moving Beyond the Page. I'm going to turn this camera around and show you a very quick flip through. I'm not going to flip through the whole thing, but I'm just going to show you the type of style that the book is and how everything is laid out in Moving Beyond the Page. So if you're new here, please hit the subscribe button. I would love for you to stick around and see future videos of mine. And let me know in the comments, have you read Iggie's House? What did you think? Have you used Moving Beyond the Page? Are you curious about more? Do you want to see more reviews and stuff like that? I know Ashley over at Gathered and Grounded, my bestie, she does a ton of reviews on Moving Beyond the Page, so check out her channel for those as well. As you can see, this is Iggie's house. So this is going to have your table of contents with all the lessons here. It's going to teach you how to use this concept. It's going to have how they break it down and kind of like the schedule that they use. There's a journal. There is required literature, which we all know is Judy Blume's Iggie's House. There's vocabulary, the concepts and lessons being taught. It's going to have the structure, a typical day. Obviously, you could do it however you want. It's going to have all your materials listed here, the required books listed here, and kind of how you want to do. It can be used independently or with the science and social studies concepts. So this is all your vocabulary. This is your review sheet over every single lesson and what's going to happen. So kind of like a scope and sequence. And then boom, right into lesson 1. So as you can see, it has your big ideas, facts and definitions, the skills you're going to learn, the materials you need, what you're going to talk about in the beginning, and then all the activities, all the comprehension questions and the answers. Sometimes they vary. And then you have activity 2, 3, 4, and then the different options that some of the activities come with. And then wrapping it up and having a summarized conversation about the chapter. And then that's kind of how each one goes.